Good morning. What do you add? It's Paul from Wicked Acorn. Another live stream adventure trying to get this Paleolithic computer to do what it was not designed to do. Anyway, if it's your first time here, welcome aboard, Benjamin. It's your first time here. This is Wicked Acorn, and we do little history documentaries, I guess. And we moved here from Canada to a place called Sale, just outside Manchester. And we started making little history documentaries about our new home. And today, something popped up. I have a bunch of videos that I've made about the history of Sale and Greater Manchester. And I have them in my calendar, and they pop up reminding me of things that have happened this day in history. And this day in history in 1871, something happened here in Sale. Sale made the national news in 1871. And the paper it was in was a paper called Frank Leslie's The Day's Doings. And it was the first tabloid. Now, the Daily Mail gets credit as being the first tabloid, but Frank Leslie's The Day's Doings came out in 1868, so it predates the Daily Mail. I think those dates are right. Anyway, The Day's Doings does predate the Daily Mail, and it has all that salacious nonsense that you see in tabloids today, at least the 19th century version. And this story, I found this story about an event that happened in Sale. Let me just first show you uh, Frank Leslie. This is Frank Leslie. So he was, in the mid-late 1800s. And he was born in, I don't remember the town, but he was born in England. And he got his start in England and as an engraver. And his work is, you've seen his work thousands of times. I'll just show you a piece of his work, and I'll just leave it on screen for a moment because I'm sure you've seen this one before. So that's one of Frank Leslie's engravings. It's a screenshot, and it's colorized, of course. It wasn't in color when Frank Leslie did it, but I'm sure you've seen that before. The Day's Doings is much more fun name than the Daily Mail, I think. Yeah, but the Daily Mail kind of lends a little more credibility, doesn't it? Not that it deserves it, but yeah. So, have you seen this before? Can you remember where you've seen this before? We'll come back to that. So, this is Frank Leslie, and this is also Frank Leslie. You can see the signature down bottom there. His wife's name, I can't remember his wife's name. This popped up, and I was going to do a whole story about Frank Leslie and the Day's Doings because it's a fascinating story. He was involved in, uh, how do I explain this? Anthony Comstock, if there are any Americans watching, you know that name, Comstock, because he was like a moral crusader in the late 19th century. And he brought Frank Leslie to court over his paper, The Day's Doings, because he got him on a technicality. Because, there were, I'll show you a cut. There's a page three girl. I'll show you the page three girl in a moment. And yes, Cheers. Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It's from Cheers. So I was looking desperately trying to find the original this morning, but I couldn't find it because this popped up and I couldn't find the original file. I didn't know I was doing this morning. But yeah, he died. He wasn't even 60 when he died, and Anthony Comstock took him to court over he Comstock. There's a piece of legislation in America named the Comstock Bill or whatever it's called. I don't know what it's called, and it's all about morality and pornography and things like that. You hear it all the time in the American press, the Comstock laws or whatever they're called. And he sued Frank Leslie successfully, almost bankrupted him because he was in the classified ads. People were, advertising like abortion pills, I guess you'd call them. They didn't call them abortion pills, but that's what they were supposed to be. Whatever abortion pills were in 1860. But yeah, you've seen his work so many times before. He was a fabulous engraver, and he employed a fabulous team of engravers, and his work is everywhere. He became really famous in the American Civil War because there was no photography. Well, there was photography, but not in newsprint. Photography hadn't entered newsprint at that time, and so he basically is the graphic representation of the American Civil War and all those events that happened in American history and world history too, of course. And his wife, Frank Leslie, after Frank Leslie died, his wife inherited the little newspaper empire that he had, and she legally changed her name to Frank Leslie so she could carry on the dealings of the company. Kind of underhanded way of because a woman wasn't allowed to do such things at the time. And this she went on to anonymously fund the suffragette movement in America. Really interesting story, and I really wanted to do a video about it, and something else came up, something shiny caught my eye, and I went in another direction. And this is like over a year ago I started looking into this story. But we did make a video about it, and I will show you that video very shortly here. What I do is I come down here in the morning and I work on something, and this is how I started doing these live streams. I come down here in the morning and I'm working on something, and today I'm working on a Manchester City mosaic, Silva. So don't worry, don't get upset. The reds are already represented. So I brought that one to market, and somebody said, "You got the wrong color. You got to make a blue one." So here I am making a blue one. I have no allegiance, if you can tell from my accent. Both City and United are rubbish at ice hockey, so they don't. I have not picked a team yet. I've been here 8 years. I don't think I'm going to. Football is really not of interest to me, but I do enjoy making mosaics of them, and we make a lot of Manchester Bee things, mosaics. So I'll show you the video. This is what I do. I come down here and I work away on my mosaics or whatever it is I'm working on and watch videos. So I figured I would react to some videos. And I ran into some trouble with reacting to somebody else's video in a live stream. Almost got a copyright strike, which is another story altogether, not going into it again. But yeah, it's terrible that people... Anyway, not going into it. So I can react to my own videos, that's for sure. And we watched one of Rick Ainsworth's yesterday, a friend of ours, friend of the channel. So I'll just roll this clip here, and It'll give you an idea of the situation. Our story today starts between the Brooklyn station and the Sale station on the Manchester South Junction and Altrincham Railway in 1871. So this is another one of our reconnaissance videos. We're out doing cycled a month for prostate cancer research. And if you want to donate, there'll be a link down below. But this came up in our last video, the Brooklands Hotel. We're just across the road from the Brooklyn station. And I actually don't know if the Brooklyn station was here in 1871, but our story takes place between Brooklands and Sale on the Manchester South Junction and Altrincham Railway. But this red plaque is on a building that was on the site of the Brooklands Hotel. And this came up in our last video. John Johnson Hunt died as a result of a fire at the Brooklands Hotel in 1909, I think it was. Anyway, you'll find links about these videos in the description below. And we're gonna head down Hope Road now to the site of our story. So our story starts at Homefield. Now it's not spelled like this, it's spelled H-O-M-E field. But I'm pretty sure this is it, because this is between Sale and Brooklyn Station. So this must be it. And our story comes from one of the earliest tabloids, a paper called The Day's Doings. And it's a fascinating little story. It's kind of a ambulance chaser story. But this was one of the first tabloids, and this story has really sent me down the rabbit hole. A fascinating story about the people responsible for the day's doings. Well, I know how you guys love the tabloids in this country. And I ran into a friend of mine a couple days ago, and I was telling her about this story about the tabloids. And I wasn't aware of tabloids. It's not something I really pay attention to. I remember as a kid and a teenager, the tabloids were in Canada were, well, the most popular one, I guess, would be the National Enquirer. And that usually had pictures about stories about alien abductions and crazy stories like that. So I asked her what the tabloids were in this country. What are the names of the tabloids? And she didn't know. And it was very interesting that she didn't know, because after looking it up, the tabloids are probably more what you think of as legitimate papers in this country, or at least perhaps a lot of people think they're legitimate papers. Papers like The Sun and the Daily Mail, and there are several others, but the tabloids are notorious in this country. They have really tormented the royals over the years. I think the Daily Mail is credited as being the first tabloid paper, and that was 1896, I think. And you have to forgive me, this is a reconnaissance video, so all these facts are not memorized, but I'm sure editor man will flash up those numbers if I'm wrong. But this paper, called The Day's Doings, is from 1871, and it was a paper in New York and London. And I found a story from The Day's Doings about my little hometown of Sale. Now, Sale is not, it's not a sleepy little town, but it's not, one of those burgeoning metropolis like the city that never sleeps. So we made the national and probably the international news back in 1871 with this story. So a bit of an ulterior motive here today. I wanted to bring you down to show you what I've been working on all week. And I was making a mosaic for Saletown in Bloom. So let's take a look at what they've been doing and go see our mosaic, which is way down at the other end, I think. So if you come down on the third Sunday of the month, I'm usually right here. That's the Sail Makers Market. And if you know who this guy is, leave a comment, because I don't recall. I may have seen his name once before, but I don't recall. So when I put this video out, of course, everybody told me who this guy is. This guy was not on my radar in the 70s in growing up in Canada. If you know who he is, I know who he is now, and I started looking into his story too, maybe a video on him at some point in time. Anyway, leave a comment if you know who he is. Who is this guy? As I said, a little bit of an ulterior motive. I wanted to come down and see the mosaic I made for Saletown in Bloom. You'll get to see the story of the day's doings in 1871, probably Sunday. I'm sure there's plenty more to see at Saletown in Bloom, but I got to get back and make a video. Now that we had a lot of fun making the video about the day's doings in 1871, and you'll see that video on Sunday. My daughter got involved in it. There's like a reenactment on one of the video games they play, and it's a really fun story about the first tabloids in the world. The day's doings was one of the first, long before Rupert Murdoch and the Sun. So that's the little reconnaissance video. So this was last year. So the event, the story says the other day, and the date on the paper is the 29th. So it's actually yesterday. Yesterday, this day in history, but maybe if you count leap years and stuff, it's this day in history. But yeah, it's Roy Castle. Yeah. I never put that together, the Roy Castle charity shop. I never put that together. But yeah, Roy Castle. I was assuming he was a local guy from Sale. But yeah, he wasn't on TV in Canada when I was in the 70s, when he was on the go. So I had no idea who he was. But this video really sent me down a rabbit hole checking out this guy, Frank Leslie. His work is absolutely amazing. He was such a wonderful engraver. And I can't remember the town he was from. As I said, this popped up this morning. I had a completely different video prepared to do this morning, and this popped up and went, oh, I should do that today. So tomorrow we're going to talk about the Ryder Cup, because Samuel Ryder of Ryder Cup fame was from Sale. He grew up in Sale. He was born in somewhere else in Lancashire, and moved to Sale when he was 3, and spent the better part of his life here. He's like 30 years he was in Sale, and he died in his 50s, so he spent most of his life in Sale. And he and his father started the seed packet business here in Sale, and then Samuel Jr. moved to St. Albans and became the successful seed merchant and started the Ryder Cup. So Ryder Cup fame begins here in Sale. His parents are buried at St. Martin's, and we've got video of all this stuff. So that was the video you were going to watch today. But that's right, he died of lung cancer, and he never did smoke, apparently. Never did smoke. Yeah, and yeah, passive smoke is a real thing. My father, he did smoke, but he wasn't a heavy smoker, and like in his 50s, he hardly smoked at all. But he drove a bus, and back when he drove a bus, you could smoke on the bus, and the bus was just, you could cut the smoke with a knife. There was a smoking section at the back, but as they say, that's like a pissing section in a pool, right? So yeah, and he developed lung issues later in life, and that's what the doctors told him. It was secondhand smoke. He was famed for the Guinness Book of World Records with McGruder twins on TV. Yeah, I remember reading about that. Good morning, Rick Ainsworth. How you doing, buddy? Yeah, so Frank Leslie. We're talking about Frank Leslie this morning and tabloids and whatnot. Now, I found this picture while the start screen was running there, so let me see if I can get this in here. This is the page 3 girl from, just let me see if I can get it in here. Yeah, there it is. Okay. This may take a minute. I've never done this live before, so bear with me. Browse, downloads. So, yeah, he did, his engravings are absolutely amazing. And here's your page 3 girl from 1871. Now, it's not a page 3 girl, but it's some story about some girl who lost her virtue, those kind of tales. Yeah, so there you go. They had a page 3 girl, and as I was telling you about Anthony Comstock and the Comstock laws, he was really, really. I mean, this must have made people crazy in the 1870s. Can you imagine? Look, there's a full boob showing there. It must have drove people absolutely crazy. So, but look at the detail. It's just amazing. Absolutely amazing detail. And I can zoom in even more than that if I could get the handles in place here. The detail is just incredible. So yeah, Anthony Comstock was all over this guy. He really had it out for Frank Leslie, and really wanted to shut him down. And he did. He nearly bankrupted the guy. And Anthony Comstock has legislation named after him for you know, morality and pornography and things like that. Like, you hear his name all the time in the American press. Comstock laws or bill or so. I can't remember what it's called, but you hear it all the time. Comstock. So this was the guy. They were each other's nemesis. They were. He came to fame that way, and yeah, you see Frank Leslie's work everywhere, everywhere. Anyway, he has no real connection to Manchester as such, but he did this story that showed up. I don't know how I found this story actually, but it showed up. I don't recall how I found this story, but it's just a short little story. So we took the story, and my daughter, there's a game she plays, Red Dead Redemption, and we reenacted the story, and I'll just show it to you here. If you live near Sale in Greater Manchester and you dig through your attic, you might find an old piece of newsprint like this. It'd be about this size. It's from Frank Leslie's The Day's Doings in 1871. It's absolutely beautiful. His work is so detailed that it's suitable for framing. So this very well may have hung in your great-grandmother's kitchen. The Day's Doings was one of the first tabloids. It covered all the same seedy type of stuff that you'd find in the likes of The Sun nowadays. But this was one of the tamer stories. It does seem to be a reoccurring type of story in the Day's Doings. I guess it's the 19th century equivalent of a high-speed chase nowadays. The Day's Doings was published in London, and it had a counterpart in New York. So not only did Sale make national news in 1871, we may also have made international news with this story. Our story today starts between the Brooklyn station and the Sale station on the Manchester South Junction and Altrincham Railway in 1871. So our story starts at Homefield. Now it's not spelled like this, it's spelled H-O-M-E field. But I'm pretty sure this is it, because this is between Sale and Brooklyn Station. So this must be it. Singular and startling incident near Manchester. An extraordinary incident has taken place on the Manchester South Junction and Altrincham Railway. The other afternoon, a carriage with 2 horses was standing in the grounds of Mr. Sedgley of Homefield between Brooklands and Sale. The animals were startled and set off at a rapid pace towards the railway. They leaped a high hedge separating the line from the Turnpike Road, which is nearly on the same level, dragging the carriage after them. On reaching the line, they swerved round in the direction of Manchester and continued their journey, dashing through Sale Station at a furious rate, and to the consternation of a number of persons awaiting the arrival of trains from opposite points. The officials at Stretford were communicated with by telegraph, and the animals were stopped just before reaching a train
brought up at the station. The most singular part of the story is that neither the carriage nor the animals were injured, and a little boy who got into the vehicle just before the horses started also made the perilous journey unharmed. So those were the day's doings in 1871 in Sale. If you want to find out more stories about our local history, check out our YouTube channel, Wicked Acorn. And if you want to come by and say hello, we're at the Sale Makers Market every third Sunday of the month. See you in the next one.
So yeah, that's just a bit of fun that popped up. As I said, my intention was not to, I wasn't going to look at this story at all this time yesterday or last night. I was going to do the Ryder Cup. So we'll look at that tomorrow, and it's like 40 minutes long, the video. So we'll probably do it over 2 days. It's so I go all around Sale to the places that would be known to Samuel Ryder Jr. of Ryder Cup fame. So if you just joined us here and you're not knowing what we're uh, talking about the video we're going to do tomorrow, and that's the reconnaissance mission for the Ryder Cup video. The Ryder Cup is not till September sometime this year, and hopefully I'll have a nice video put together for that. So, but the one we're going to watch tomorrow is just reconnaissance, so you'll get to see all the places that Sam Ryder would have known living here in Sale in the the 1860s. He probably would he have, yeah, he would have been here when that event took place, when the singular and startling event took place in Manchester. You know, he's the right age. He could have been the kid in the wagon. Yeah, he would have been about that age, yeah. Hmm. I wonder. But they didn't live at Homefield. But they lived very nearby Homefield. Hmm. I guess we'll never know. No names are mentioned in the story, and I don't think the story gets any more coverage than that. But yeah, we're going to look at Sam Ryder tomorrow and go around to some places, reconnaissance mission for it, and you'll get to know more about Samuel Ryder and his seed business that started here in Sale, the penny seed packet. The seed packet, it it wasn't invented in Sale by Sam Ryder, but it kind of was. The seed packet. The Shaker community in America get the credit for inventing the seed packet, but that happens all the time. People invent things in different places, and they invent the same thing because there's a need for such a thing. So it gets invented by different people, different times, different places. You know, the radio's got a couple people claim they invented it, and the all kinds of inventions. Anyway, I'm going to say that Sam Ryder invented the seed packet here in Sale, even though Wikipedia will tell you different. But you'll find out all about that tomorrow. Thanks for joining in. If you're watching this afterwards with a rifle over your shoulder, was there a guy with a rifle over his shoulder in the video? I don't think I remember that. I wasn't really watching the video. Was there a guy with a rifle over his shoulder? Yeah, you probably could walk around with a rifle over your shoulder in the 1870s in Sale and probably not get too noticed. I mean, people used to, go out hunting and whatnot, and not like today when a gun only has one purpose today, doesn't it? Well, that's not really true. But if you were walking around Sale with it, it would only have one purpose. So yeah, we'll be looking at that tomorrow. And if you're first time here or you usually watch this afterwards, um, join us on the live stream. I'm trying to do 11 a.m. I don't know if it's the best time to be doing this, but it's the time we're doing it at the initial startup here to get used to doing this. This is all new to me, so it's all an adventure. So yeah, if you're able, join us 11 a.m. tomorrow morning, and we'll be looking at Sam Ryder. So, with that being said, all I can say is, we'll see you in the next one.